Welcome back to Jeff Willett's Muscle Hub, home of my weekly Q&A show and all of my YouTube video updates. Thank you guys for your question submissions. Keep them coming in. You guys drive the show. Let's get into this week's questions. Question 1 comes from Ariel, and this came through email. It says, Max OT specifies a week off after every 8 to 10 weeks of training. Do you ever take a break longer than 1 week? Customarily, I really don't. The only time that would happen is if there was some type of ailment or sickness or something like that. I think what I like to do is definitely don't skip that week off. It's very important for long-term or cyclical recovery. I would plot out my calendar, and I know every 8 to 10 weeks I was going to take a week off. I would generally do it after 8 weeks, unless for some reason I knew I had an event or a period of time where I was going to have to travel. Then I might stretch it to 9 or 10 weeks, possibly even 11, to make it coincide with when I had to travel. But to answer your question more directly, as far as taking any time off longer than 1 week, no, I wouldn't do that unless there was some kind of extra reason that physically that had to happen. Question 2 from Mark Barton through email. Are there advantages to taking L-glutamine and creatine on your off days? I think there's definitely advantages to taking L-glutamine. I take L-glutamine every single day. L-glutamine, and I like GL3 1200 by AST Sports Science, that has tremendous muscle recovery benefits, immune system enhancement benefits, and I think it also helps with muscle preservation. So I mean, L-glutamine is something you want to take every day. Creatine, I think as long as you're taking it on your training days, I don't know that you necessarily have to take it on an off day, especially if you're training 5 days on and 2 days off. I don't think it hurts to take it. I don't know that there's much advantage to do it. So that one I think is optional, but L-glutamine I would take every day. Question number 3, this came from Will on Facebook. I went through your training DVDs and they are very in-depth. I see when you're doing pull-ups you suggest gripping on the horizontal part of the bar and not too wide. I'm accustomed to doing very wide angles. Is it still okay to do wide grip pull-ups? You know, from a functionality standpoint, from a muscle building, lat integration standpoint, I really prefer, whether it's from a lat pull down or a pull up, to take a more narrow grip. And again, you can look at my DVDs and see that hand grip that I get. I think if you're a little bit more narrow, not on the wide angled part of the bar, but more narrow, you're going to be a little bit more mechanically strong and mechanically natural through the move to really contract your shoulder blades and really keep that load on the lat. So I think it's more effective to perform pull-ups and pull-downs with a more narrow grip, and I would avoid the super wide. Question 4 comes from BJ, and this came through Twitter. Some more traditional bodybuilding routines separate quads from hamstrings. Your routines group them together. Can you explain why your approach is different? Yes, the main reason why I like to group hamstrings together with quadriceps is to maximize that whole recovery issue. Way early in my career, I did some of those more traditional type of routines, and I did separate quads from hamstrings on the workouts. But what I find is when you're doing heavy basic compound lifts for your legs, which should be the bulk of your workout, like squats and leg press, you're integrating your hamstrings quite a bit during that. So then to come back and work them again later in the week, I find it's just too much work and overtraining on the hamstrings. So I think it's more effective to group them together and really focus on squats, your basic lift squats, leg press, possibly front squats, and then stiff leg deadlifts. And from my own personal experience, my hamstring development and separation was never better than the last chunk of years where I focused specifically on Max OT training, kept quadriceps and hamstrings on the same workout, and just focused on those basic compound lifts. And I really found that's what really maximized that development. Question 5 comes from Heat Nation. This comes from Twitter, and he wants to know my thoughts on creatine cycling. So for that one, we're going to have to go upstairs. Once again, the question was about creatine cycling. So I thought, I don't know, let's test it out and try this whole creatine cycling business, but it's a little awkward. I'm trying to see if I can. I'm not sure how well this whole creatine cycling business will work. It's really difficult. That can't be creatine cycling. Wait, that can't be right. I don't think you meant this kind of creatine cycling. That can't be right. So, oh, you meant like periods of time on and off creatine, not actually creatine while cycling. Ah, I got it. Actual creatine cycling is something that I never really did a lot of. If I was going to do a creatine cycling method, I would look to Paul Cribb. He's got some interesting philosophies on that, and I think they could be really effective. But for me, I generally just took it pretty much nonstop, never really did a cycling. So I don't have personal experience with it, but if I was going to attempt creatine cycling, I would look at the advice of Paul Cribb. So hey, thanks guys for tuning in. Keep your question submissions coming. You can send them through Facebook, through Twitter, through YouTube. You can hashtag AskJW. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Now let's go out and execute.